We'll now hear from a group who helped a shattered community rebuild after a tragic gang-related death 7 years ago. Let's welcome Stone Soup Community, representing the Whanganui district.
Morena koutou. I'm Annette and I'm the Mayor of Whanganui, and I'm not going to put on a Kiwi suit and I'm not going to fall down dead on the floor, but I am going to introduce Kath and Greg from Stone Soup Community. They are representatives of a group that is working in our community, empowering a major section of our community. They are representatives because this is not about people coming in to help a part of our community. This is about this community doing it for themselves.
Cool. Tēnā tātou, kua hui hui nei, tēnā koutou katoa, and thank you, Annette. Welcome to our journey of Stone Soup. I'm not so sure that this is so much a presentation of a project and what we do as it is an acknowledgement of who we are as a community. Kath and I would like to share on behalf of our Whanganui Rupu a small part of our collective story.
I'd just like to introduce Jamie and Corey. They are a family part of us, Stone Soup, and they are very valuable. They actually saved Stone Soup 2 Stone Soups ago when Greg slept in.
Most of the photos you will see relate to our regular gathering, but Stone Soup is far more than this. 8 years ago, an innocent 18-month-old baby girl was tragically killed in a drive-by shooting in our neighbourhood. It was a devastating event. It was a tense time. People were scared of further violence and were sleeping on the floor in back rooms. Some services were withdrawn from the area to protect employees. A woman who was having daily visits by a health nurse was instead given a chit to get a taxi to the hospital. An early childhood program was temporarily halted, and a local school lost a number of families, which had a significant impact on their funding.
I'd just like to introduce you to Yvonne. Yvonne is no longer with us. She was very sick, she was on sickness benefit, and she was a valued part of our community. Our very first Stone Soup was buried in her backyard, and she is a part of the story of Stone Soup.
A number of people came together and asked the question, how can we improve and build resilience within our own community? If we can park the story there, well, I'll tell you a fable. A traveller in hard times came into a village and asked for food. The villagers were reluctant, living in poverty themselves. The traveller said that it was fine and that he would make himself some stone soup. And so he lit a fire, filled the billy with water and threw in a few stones. The villagers were bemused and told him that he couldn't eat stone soup. He just needs something to thicken it, maybe a potato. Can anyone spare a potato? And a few people volunteered potatoes. It just needed maybe a little bit of flavour. Did anyone have some broccoli or some carrots? And someone volunteered some broccoli and carrots and threw it into the pot. And in the end, they sat down as a community and shared in the goodness of stone soup.
I'd just like to introduce Kirsty. Kirsty is a Housing New Zealand manager who volunteered her time to be part of Stone Soup. One day she was threatened by a member of our Stone Soup at her office. Yet she still turned up to the next Stone Soup to volunteer her time. We made sure there was an action plan in place for her safety. Nothing happened at Stone Soup, but we are grateful.
And so Stone Soup was born in our suburb. We all had something to add to the mix for the well-being of all. We decided on a realistic area of 550 homes. We agreed that we needed to meet regularly and intentionally, and that this couldn't be a pilot program, but had to be an ongoing relationship that everyone was able to participate in. We also didn't want it to be a slick production put on for us, but that in as much as possible, we would do it for ourselves. And it certainly wasn't about outside groups marketing to us. And so we sent invitations to 550 homes to attend a gathering in our local park. We hoped for 250, but 500 attended the very first time. And there was a new sense of this is what community is meant to be about. If I can share a simple but crude picture to illustrate Stone Soup at its most raw and basic, and if you're like me, and if you're not, then I've got some issues, and you get cut off by a driver at an intersection, your initial reaction is to raise a finger or a fist, but when you realise that it's someone you know, it quickly turns to a smile and a wave. Stone Soup at its most rudimentary level is about building relationships. At an early Stone Soup, an elderly Pākehā gentleman commented to my wife Judy that it was great to see the kids, who were predominantly Māori, just having good, clean fun. Her response was, That was also good for them to see him not being a grumpy so-and-so. And he took the point. And so what does our gathering look like? We do hangi. Some people might drop off some food to add to the hangi. A group of 10 to 15 come in on Friday to help prepare it, and then 4 or 5 start the fire at 3:30 and we bury it by 7. Then some others arrive and we pack up some vans and a truck with gazebos, tables and chairs, maybe sun umbrellas, possibly a roll of black polythene for a water slide, a hired bouncy castle, a generator, tea, coffee, some sports gear, a PA, and whatever else we might think of, and head down to the park at around 10 o'clock. Some others will come down and we start to debate where everything should go, and then we set up. We have some canned music, or some might sing and play guitar. A group of girls might do an impromptu song. We've had jazzercise and salsa and kapa haka, and even country and western, regrettably. We play games, often about recognising the good things that are happening in our community, or ways to mix and better get to know each other. We've had intergenerational tugs of war, driving competitions. There's no Oshia, I hope. And we've raced to change a tyre. We've had gumboot throwing.
That's me delightfully telling them it's my turn. I'd just like to introduce you young Jessica and Constable Kevin Smith. One day we had a scare, we couldn't find Jessica. So all the adults scattered to find her, but the relationships we have with our community police is growing stronger day by day.
And often our games are made up on the day. People offer to have turns to man the bouncy castle or organise a touch game. We all look out for our kids. We identify some stuff that we need to know more about, health, and so we have blood pressure and sugar tests, dog safety and fire safety. We recognise and incorporate events like Neighbours Day and White Ribbon. Our community policing team is always there and are part of the day, building sincere relationships within our community. You didn't stop me, oh sorry. And we have lunch. The men go get the hangi and a whole heap of people jump to serve. One of the greatest things is that many of our teenagers serve the children, and honestly, that's one of the things I'm really most proud of. Towards the end of the day, those that want to, maybe 20 or 30 or so, sit down for a korero corner, where we talk about what's hot and what's not, and how we should celebrate and address these.
Just like to introduce the creative gardener. So we give hundreds of plants away, and we decided instead of just giving plants, we'd do one gardener at a time, growing gardeners. I'm going to be quick now because we're ready.
Then it's pack up and go home at 3 o'clock, and that's a very small glimpse of a Stone Soup gathering. Time doesn't allow us to convey all that Stone Soup is. There's so many stories, and there's so much outside the gathering that we do. Our Stone Soup community has developed a 5-year strategy expressing our aspirations and how we're moving towards them. People have started craft groups and walking groups. They've created shared gardens, and a group is helping to plant gardens, as you saw, and grow gardeners. We've had other events and guest speakers and involved ourselves in the White Ribbon marches. We've successfully lobbied council for a new playground and made submissions on the legal highs. And some of us have access to professional forums, have committed to asking non-professional community members to those forums so that they too can share in the knowledge. And that's not something that the professionals have always taken kindly to. In closing, I've just got to say that we have the most wonderful growing community where we are learning to know and love and care for each other. And that is the story of Stone Soup.
Thank you.
Shall we do it? And just because I know you won't cut me off, e re re te awa tupua, mai e te kauhi mō ngā kitangaro, kia wakapiri a mai, kona piringa, hine nāko, tama upuku, Tupoho po te kie, ko te awa ko. E re re, te awa tupu.